Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Jersey Shore podcast. That's SURE because we are always sure. I'm your host, Damon Galdo, coming to you live from First Amendment Live Studios from the great America's Pulse Network. I have a special guest tonight who I'll introduce soon, but first I want to get to the breaking news. Well, actually, first let me just cover this. A note to everybody out there, if you ever scrape your head on a pole on vacation, just don't let it get sunburned because it'll stick out. So that's what you're seeing here. So breaking news. Number one, Trump slams Putin. So let's play this clip.
I am very disappointed with President Putin. I thought he was somebody that meant what he said, and he'll talk so beautifully, and then he'll bomb people at night. We don't like that.
So there's Trump for you. He's going to. So basically, what Trump is saying, I don't know if the announcement came out yet because we're here in studio, but it's supposed to be tonight. Trump is supposed to announce that he is going to send munitions to Ukraine, which he already said that, but he's coming up with a plan of how he's going to make NATO pay for it, is what he always says that he's going to do. But he's realizing that Putin is a bad actor. He tried, is what he's saying, and Putin isn't giving up. So we'll see where it goes from there. So that's the breaking news I have for you there. I'm not going to go any further into it until we know more. The other breaking news is the New York Times article that came out. It buries Biden's auto pen scandal deep into its publishing. So this article, that'll pop up on the screen in a second, you'll see it. Basically, it was like 7 paragraphs in to this article is when they really got to the meat and potatoes of it. They talked about Biden's auto pen, and they said Biden had an interview, and he said all the decisions were his. He made those choices. But then when you get into the deep of it, like 7 paragraphs in, it says, at the end of his term, Mr. Biden reduced the sentences of nearly 4,000 federal convicts and preemptively pardoned politically prominent people he considered potential targets of Mr. Trump for criminal investigations. Mr. Biden said in his Thursday's interview that he had his staff use an auto pen for the warrants because he had granted clemency to so many people. The auto pen was used in all on 25 pardoned and commutation warrants from last December to January. Some of the individual warrants included large batches of names because they all fell into the same broad policy category. So, and it goes further that his aides and his staff said that he gave them a category of people that he wanted to pardon, and they used auto pen. So he didn't choose the individuals. He just gave them a blanket category. So the staff and the aides actually chose the people who to pardon and used auto pen. And that's where the New York Times comes in and finally says it without saying it, 7 paragraphs in. That's the big story. That's the breaking news. And they're not focused on that. That should be the headline right then and there. Biden gives his staff the power of the executive office to pardon people, not him himself. He didn't choose the people individually. He gave them a category. So that's big news to me, folks. I mean, it should be to you. So with that said, I'm going to go into the monologue here. So you ever wonder why your life feels the way it does? It's easy to blame circumstances. It's easy to look out the window and say, this world is broken and I'm stuck in it. But what if I told you that every moment, every decision, every word, every silent agreement or refusal is shaping not only your life, but those around you? Jordan Peterson said something very profound. With every decision that you make, you decide for yourself and for everyone else whether you're going to tilt the world a little bit more towards hell or a little bit more towards heaven. Now, that's the weight of choice, and it is weight because it's responsibility, but it's also hope that no matter where you've been, what you've done, or what's been done to you, your next move matters. The choice you make today are not just personal, they're moral, they're spiritual, they define your path forward. You can choose what is meaningful. You can choose to stop running from responsibility. You can choose to walk away from bitterness, to stop blaming the world, and instead ask, what part of this mess is mine to clean up? Because that's where freedom lives, in responsibility. Not in doing whatever you want, but in doing what's right even when you don't want to do it. That's what turns chaos into order. That's what builds a life worth living. So what is right? What should we build our choices around? I would say start here. God, family, country. Not because it's catchy, because it's true. You know, these three are the foundation stones of a meaningful life. When they're strong, everything else can follow. When they're neglected, everything else crumbles. But listen, none of it works if you can't tell the difference between what's right and what's wrong. And today, that's harder than ever. We've got noise coming from every screen, every influencer, every so-called expert telling us to live our truth, even when that truth is built on a lie. So you start by telling the truth. First to yourself, then to others. You stop making excuses. You stop blaming the system or your past or your parents, whatever it may be. You look in the mirror and you say, what can I do today, no matter how small, to make my life in this world just a little bit better? That's the difference between victimhood and victory. That's what this life is for. So as you go about your day, ask yourself, what am I choosing? Am I tilting the world toward heaven or hell? Am I honoring God, loving my family, or serving my country? Do I know the difference between comfort and truth? Because your life isn't just happening to you, you're building it, one choice at a time. So that's my monologue, and that's where we're going with this podcast today, because I figure it's always political, and of course there's going to be politics involved, but you'll see why I took this direction. So we're going to start our first segment here, and it's why choice is so powerful. And I want to introduce my guest here, Nate Thurber. Thank you, Nate, for coming on. Nate is a very good friend of mine, friend of Peter Sykes, who's running for assembly, my co-host on the radio show. And we get in a lot of great conversations, and Nate has a lot to offer. We don't always agree on stuff, and that's the whole point of it. We can disagree on stuff, and we're still good friends. So, Nate.
No, thank you, Brian. No, I appreciate it. No, I appreciate it. And that's the key. You know, even though you're going to have disagreements, you're not going to agree with everybody, but you got to be able to have these conversations, and you got to be cool with it at the end. Like, I'm not going to hate anybody at the end. I don't want to hate anything. So, no, that's why it's like important to have these conversations, even if you do disagree. But, no, man, well done on your monologue. And then thank you for having me here. But yeah, no, Pete, obviously your co-host is my cousin. And no, I'm actually his treasurer for his campaign. So it's going good, man. It's fun.
Yeah, well, we need them to win, man.
That's it, bro.
We need some change. We need some
money. Yeah, exactly. VoteJackandPete.com. Let's get that in right away.
Yeah, there you go. So, and then Pete, don't get upset. You don't get the Patriot of the Week where I gave it to somebody else this week. So I know you're always looking for it, but in my mind, you're always a Patriot, buddy.
Always.
So, but I want to ask you, so for you, why do you think choice is so powerful?
So why is choice so powerful? Choice, that's the ultimate thing of freedom. All right, freedom comes down to choice. All right, whatever freedom to do whatever you want to do, as long as it doesn't impose on somebody else, of course. But no, you got to be at least to have the ability to have the choice. So no one's going to infringe upon that. No one's going to prevent you from doing, living a prosperous life. Like I said, that's to me choice. Like, look, you got that to me is the ultimate freedom. I know it sounds a bit repetitive, but like, no, that's just the ultimate choice. Like that, to me, ultimate freedom is choice. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, because it is very powerful, because your choice affects so many things. Like everything that you choose to do, whether it's going to affect you, whether it's going to affect somebody else, whether your family, and you have a responsibility. And for all the lefties out there, I just want to say that, everyone's going to, the lefties, yeah, it's choice, my body, my choice. And when it goes to abortion, no, but when that doesn't refer to this.
For the regular, I'm not a hardcore lefty either. Like, even when we disagree, like, no, I'm not a lefty.
No, he's not.
I'm more independent than anything. But
no, I'm just saying a little bit. They're like, choice is powerful. So I can have an abortion. No, but my whole point is that the baby doesn't have a choice. So that doesn't apply to this. Your choice does affect other people, but the baby doesn't have a choice.
There's got to be a
limit.
So
it doesn't apply.
There got to be a limit in my mind.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there. But I mean,
get into that.
Every decision, regardless of how small it may seem, contributes to the overall narrative of life, and that's what it is. And I'll tell you right now, I made bad choices when I was younger.
Who hasn't?
Yeah.
Who hasn't?
So but I learned from them, and I'm the type of person, honestly, and my producer will tell you the same thing. I sometimes I ask everyone's opinion all the time, but sometimes I have to learn it on my own before I realize. Yeah. And that's just who I am, and I got to deal with it.
No, hearing it is one thing. Hearing it, even if it's somebody you trust, something like that, experience is the greatest teacher. As much as you can hear something, try to learn that way, and have someone teach you in that manner. Experience is always going to be the best teacher in life, and help you make better choices. Help you do things better to help yourself out and help out others. More importantly.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, when you look at in history, you look at any type of religion or Muslim anyway. God gave you a choice. You know, it's like, well, why doesn't God just direct everything and say this is what you're going to do? Because
free will,
free will, yes.
Yeah.
So it gives you a choice to make your mistakes or make the good choices and learn from them. And then in the end, I mean, that's why, what I said about Jordan Peterson, are you going to make the choice that's going to tilt the world a little bit more towards heaven or hell? And that's your decision.
I never heard that. No, that was really good. I did like that. No, and every day, make that choice to make every interaction you have, try to make it, tilt it towards heaven. Put that on the good side of the ledger. There you go.
Yeah, that's how I try to view things. It's like, is this choice going to make things better or worse? And then sometimes I got to learn the hard way, but if you think about it more and more, I mean, choice is that powerful because it can change the game for everything, and not just for you, for everybody else. Like doesn't mean even if you don't have a family, you don't have kids, your choices still affect everybody else. It's like a butterfly effect.
100%, bro. And just like the whole pay it forward, it feels good to do something for better. I feel much better when I'm doing something for somebody else as opposed to doing something for myself. That feeling and that's going to encourage that same person where if I get pulled over on the side of the road or I have a flat tire and someone comes and stops and helps me, all right, next time I see somebody who stopped or has a flat tire, I'm going to be more likely to, no, someone did that for me. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to do that for that person now. It gives me the inclination to, no, I want to pull over now. I want to pay that forward. I want to help someone else out. And and as cheesy as it might sound, no, it's going to make the world a better place. It really does. And even in small increments like that, but those individual choices, those small choices that you might have to do something, hold the door open for somebody, and grab a bag, who knows, anything, small as it might be, it could help at least that person. It'll help that person out, have that person have a better day. Maybe they have a shitty day, something like that.
Yeah.
And but that random act of kindness and can't be duplicated. That can't be duplicated. That feeling and no, 100% encourage that.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest, I try to get myself involved in a lot of different things, and I'll get into next segment. My sister's fundraiser, she has breast cancer, but and most of the listeners know that if they've seen other podcasts. But it's just like every small thing that you do, and sometimes I bite off more than I can chew, and then if I don't accomplish something, it just smacks me in the face, and then I realize I gotta make better choices. I gotta compartmentalize, what's important, and like my family, number one thing in my mind.
Bro, that's gotta be number one. And number one by a long shot in family, exactly. But your eyes just can't be bigger than your stomach. That's it. You know what I mean? When you have too much on your plate, you gotta obviously it's that balance. But also I would put family numero uno.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? Or what else is this life for? Family.
Exactly. Starting with that, and you're talking about what is this life for? 100%. It's about your family. It's about your children. It's about helping the next generation. Obviously, we have kids. We both have kids. But I mean, helping out the next generation to be better than us. They should stand on the shoulder of giants. Well, they get to stand on our shoulders. So they should learn. And what's called strive to be. We should want them to be better than us. Give them that. That push, that motivation to do that. And it's like I said, what is life for, man? It's who knows, what happens when we die. But look, if we only got 80 years on average or whatever the life expectancy is, make great memories, especially for your kids. Because, that whole pay it forward thing, going back to that, it's like you do something great for your kids, they're going to have their children. All right, you know what? They're going to remember the things that we did as parents for our kids. They're going to duplicate that for theirs.
Yeah.
All right. And then theirs is going to see what their parents are, what our kids did for our grandkids are going to see what our kids did for them. And they're going to do it for our great grandkids and so on and so forth. And, build that world that, we hopefully, one day our children, our grandchildren, and generations after us can live in.
Well, you know what I think about a lot, though? I don't think about dying, but it's but I think about when the day comes, when I'm laying on my deathbed, I want to look back at my life and just say, I did my best, and just have my children look at me and say, Dad, you did everything you could for best for them, and I could die happy. You know what I mean? Knowing that I've done the best. And not everything's gonna be perfect.
But in a perfect world, though, I mean, surrounded by your family, you can tell them like, "Hey, Dad, thank you," or you did a good job, something like that. Thanks, and just roll over, and that's it.
Yeah,
in a perfect world, that'd be tremendous. Obviously, look, when I'm old, we don't want to rush this. We don't want this to happen. Next week, we get you know, anything crazy, but no, but like no, when we're old, we live a fulfilled life, and you know, we watch our kids become adults and grandkids, etc. I mean, that's the goal, man. There's nothing. I don't know what it's like for us to have children. I mean, look, it's not for everybody, but you know, I can tell you what, I wouldn't change it for the world. I love it.
Yeah, but it's funny because when I was single, and then even when I got married, my wife and I we didn't have kids until after like 5 years we were married.
Nice.
And then we talked about it. We knew we wanted to. But it was still like you live such a different way. And you're like, okay, all you do is worry about you, like what you were doing that day. And then when I was married, yeah, of course, my wife, and then her from me, her husband. But it was when you have a kid, then it's like, whoop, everything's out the window for you and everything, and it's all about the kid. And you think like. A lot of people are afraid of that. They're like, well, I'm not going to give up all this stuff. But no, when it happens, you are so willing. You want to give everything up.
Can't wait. Your priorities switch immediately.
Yeah.
The moment they start crying when you hold them for the first time in the hospital, it's like there's some switch that just goes off like, oh, okay, yeah, no, there's different meanings now. There's different meanings to life, and I got to change that things got to change. I can't, you know, I don't know. Now that person means there's something that you care more about than yourself.
Yeah.
And truly, obviously people say that about, like, you know, the friends, and they be like, no, when you have your own, it's a little bit different, you know what I mean? As much as I love you and I'll take a bullet for you, Dame, I would feel like, you know what I mean, my children would come before you. And anybody would say that. Like, I'm not saying anything that anybody wouldn't know.
But it's a privilege. And, you know, when I see it all the time, like, I'm I really want to say just Democrats as a whole, but the far left, the ones that don't want to have kids, they're all by themselves. They're, you know, we always joke around.
The ones that like brag about abortion.
Yeah, and call them cat ladies and all this stuff. You know, it's like they don't have kids, and I forget what they call. What was it? The dinks they called them, or was it don't? And I forget what.
Hold on, dual income, no kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, dual income, no kids.
And they're all about themselves. But then, I hope one day they experience. I mean, they can choose to live how they want. That's their choice. But I just. Like if they were to have a baby, you know what I mean, and they would see it. I mean, because it's in our DNA. I mean, we want to procreate. I mean, it's part of it. That's how we live on. I mean, that's like the whole reason why, you know, like it's just something party. Like my son is named Damon Jr. You know, producer's named Damon. He's got a Damon Jr. too. So
you establish that legacy of your name, you know, and you know, your kids are a reflection of you. You know, they are a reflection of you. Obviously, they're their own person, they're their own entity, but like no, they are a reflection of you simply because, especially if you're around, you know, that you've raised them, you know, and no, it's nothing better. Nothing better, bro.
So I just wanted to keep this positive. I know we're going to get into some different stuff later, but I just want to talk about family, like why is choice powerful. But we're going to take a quick break and we're going to go into the second segment.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
This is so amazing and miraculous. We've never had a president in the history of our nation doing this. And we hope to God that he continues doing this forever and ever. Thank you. God bless you, everybody. And God bless President Trump.
And God bless you.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with the America's Pulse Network. I am the White House correspondent right here in the heart of D.C. as President Trump is celebrating 250 years of America and the military.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
All right, everybody, welcome back to segment 2. This segment is God, Family, Country. I did mention this in a monologue too, not because it's catchy, but because it's the truth. And Nate, I'll start with you. Like I mean, that's the order of the saying, God, Family, Country. And to me, I like the order, and I can explain why that's important to me. But how about you? What we
God, Family, Country. Definitely. I mean, you know, you can flip flop, maybe family over God or God. But like, look, at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to subscribe to any one specific God. Like, I do believe there's ultimately a creator. Created this beautiful universe that we're occupying. We're some pale blue green dot floating around in space, or on some flat saucer planet. There's some flat earthers out there, but you know, gotta give y'all. You know, who knows? You know, I've never been to the edge. I don't know, but I'm a bit married to the globe. But like, that being said, like, you know what I mean? This entire galaxies and universes and this whole thing, there has to be something that has to come from shit. Like, you know, the Big Bang Theory. You know, give me one free miracle and I'll explain the rest. And it's like, you know, that free miracle, that's some type of creator, that's some type of creation, that's some type of entity, all-knowing, omniscient, omnipotent, all those attributes that we give to, you know, people that read it in a book and some holy books. But no, I do believe in that. I do believe in like God. And look, and none of that we've had. Look, my family or none of this experience that we're having right now wouldn't be possible without that ultimate creation. So in a sense, I guess that I feel like that's why that phrase is put in that order, and I don't disagree with that. But I think in the Bronx style, like, your guy up there, like my guy's bigger down here than your guys up there. My family's right here. My family's right here. So so they would obviously my girls would come first. So
Yeah, of course. I think that is a part of God. You know what I mean? The family part is a part of God in my mind. Like because it teaches you to love your family, to grow your family, and that's what it is, and to be a good person, and to pass that on to your children too, and to have that family bond. There's nothing more special than that. But it also teaches you to live a good life. And it's living on the values that. Whether, like you said, whether it's a little dot out there or whatever that created everybody, there's something bigger than us. But either way, it's still a guide to live a good life and and treat everybody the best they possibly can. Because if you look at it like, all right, well, if there is a consequence from being bad, just like we have it, you break the law on here and you go to jail. Yeah. So if you have that, and in the spiritual term, you're like, okay, well, it makes you want to be a good person because you want to. If there is a heaven, you want to be there. Yeah. And there is a hell, you definitely don't want to be there. Oh yeah. So, but it's just a good way to live. It's a good mindset, whether you believe or not. I mean, I personally do, but it's just it's the way you look at things.
I'm sorry, I didn't control.
No, I was just going to go in the country, and the country part about it is that you have to you have to live it up, but you still have to protect. It's like you protecting your family. You have to protect your country because there's always somebody that's going to want to take what you have. So, but it's not like I'm going to push everyone away and say, listen, you're not part of our group, but there has to be boundaries, just like the open border, stuff like that. Like, but the illegals and that are coming over here. Listen, I'm not saying they're bad people. Well, I say they're bad people if they're burning flags and they come over here and trashing our shit when they're living off of our taxpayer dollars. Yeah, then you can go. But it's just, there has to be some type of rule of law, and that's where country comes in. There has to be some type of ruling entity, that keeps, everyone else in check. And that's what I get out of the country part.
Yeah, and I didn't even touch into that. I was just focused on God and family, whatever. But no, like country, it's obviously it's a very big version, but it's an extended version of our tribes. All right, like, our tribe, obviously look, as human beings, whatever, we started relatively small, tribe situations, but like, and it grew into like, look, family's obviously going to be the first one because that's the first one that you're going to come to when you need help. When you're in some type of jam, you need whatever, you're going to go to your family first. Then it's going to be your extended family or tribe, so to speak. But in broader sense, in the geopolitical sense, in the world that we live in, the United States, that's our tribe. That's how I feel about us. Especially, look, I love the Olympics. I love rooting for Team USA whenever, especially soccer. I know how much we love it here in America, but like, no, it's getting up there. It's getting up there. But I'm USA all day. Like, let's go. I'm rooting for that. I made some disagreements with our foreign policy, but that being said, like, no, this is still our extended tribe. Even if my distant cousin is a screw up, something like that, like, I'm still going to love him. He's still my family. I'm going to do whatever I can to hopefully, make sure he's not a screw up or do something in that sense. But you got to hold things accountability. It's real important to me. And so if you do something wrong, you gotta be held accountable.
Yeah, and one thing I want to touch on with the whole God family country too is one thing I mentioned before, and if anybody saw the other podcast, my sister Beth was diagnosed with breast cancer years ago, and she put up the fight. She had double mastectomy, chemotherapy, proton therapy, everything, went through all the treatment. She was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, and then after she went through all that treatment, thought she beat it, and then it metastasized to her bone marrow. Then it was stage 4, which is basically incurable. And after that, it's a death sentence. It's a countdown. And she's the one, and I love you, Beth. Thank you. She's the one that gives me
fine, babe. No, well done. Well done. No.
Yeah, but she's the one that gave me the motivation to start the things I do, like when I ran for office, stuff like that. So basically, when she was trying to get her PET scans after she was diagnosed with stage 4, insurance company said they weren't paying for it anymore. They said, we're not paying for it. It's just, she's terminal. There's no way it can help. But her oncologist said, no, she needs it because we can prolong her life because it moves from her bone marrow to say her liver, where it is now with tumors on her liver, we can catch it and switch her medications and put her on something else and prolong her life. So our insurance company said we're not paying for it. So she appealed it 4 times, and they denied it. So she made a YouTube video basically saying that my insurance company's trying to kill me. And I saw it. I'm like, you know what? So I contacted every agency out there that could possibly, respond. And Fox 29, local Fox 29 from Philly, they responded and they did this story on her. They aired it for a week, and then guess what? Their insurance company came back and said, "We're going to pay for it now."
Wow.
And that's what
Yeah,
and that's what gave me the motivation. I'm like, wow, man, your voice can be heard. Like if you actually get out there and put things out there in front of people and you hold them accountable and you talk about it, and that's what gave me the motivation to do the other things that I've done, to run for office, go on the radio, do the podcast, stuff like that. It was all because of her fight, because I don't know if I could fight the way she is. I mean, she's one of the best people I know. She has 2 young girls, and she wants to.
Showing them the way. Showing them the way.
Yeah, and then through all this, and I think that's where God comes in. And I won't mention him yet because he's going to get the Patriots Week award. But a friend of mine who's also on the radio, he was involved with Pennies in Action, which is it's a group that funds this cancer research. It's new. It's immunotherapy. It was basically they take your own immune system and just like put it on steroids pretty much, and then give you an injection of your own immune system, and so it battles the cancer, and it's actually starting to work. So she's in a trial phase of it. It's not regulated yet, but I think Trump passed that right to try thing. So, but she has to fly to Florida every week to get these injections. So it's her last option, but she's trying it. So it's expensive. So I started a GoFundMe for her, and her friends threw her a fundraiser, and we were all part of it this weekend in Wildwood. So I just want to finish out. Let me just play this clip real quick. This is us in Wildwood. This is my sister here.
Okay.
They always say it takes a village, and you guys are my village. So thank you for everything. Thank you for your help. Thank you to my family for putting up with me, because I know it's hard. Thank you to my friends for putting up with me. Dandy, my girl, that I love you. You help me more than you know all the time. And I love you. My cousin Elena, who donated the pizzas and stuff. But just so you guys know, I know a lot of you guys, some people might not know me from afar. I'm battling stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Been doing it for a while. And I just found this new treatment, but it's in Florida. It's at the Moffitt Cancer Institute in Florida, in Tampa. So every week, for 20 weeks in a row, I have to fly down to Florida for my treatment. So I fly back and forth every week. And I fly back and forth because I have 2 daughters. And my mom goes with me. I mean, she's like a trooper out now. She does it. Oh, she's over there. Mom and Dad are back there. But I just want to be home with my girls while they're still home for the summer, because they're going to be leaving me for college. So, but I ride back and forth, and hopefully this treatment is at the Moffitt Cancer Institute. It's dendritic cells. It's meant to make a vaccine so that, all you women and men out there might not get breast cancer. But now they're testing it on someone like me who's metastatic stage 4, who won't be cured from it, but hopefully it'll help me live a long life. I've been doing this a long time. I've been trying to stay one step ahead of it as much as I could. But that's why I'm here, because I don't take no for an answer, and I fight my ass off. So thank you all so much for everything. Thank you.
Reach in your pockets. Let's give her some money.
That was one of my other sister's friend, Chris, who was there. He's funny. But before that, he got up and had the national anthem playing, and it was kind of cool too, because even people that weren't there at the for the fundraiser, they were there on the beach. And then we played the national anthem, and like half the beach stood up and face flag, and and they stood for it. And then a lot of people came over and bought chances for the baskets and stuff like that. And again, it goes back to God, family, country. I mean, we raised her almost $25,000, which is going to cover all of her flights down to Florida now. And that's what it was a good damn feeling, Nate. I'll tell you that right now.
Exactly, bro. And it's for your sister too, and doing it for your family, but also doing it for something for somebody else. And you said like the insurance company after they got that bad press, then they finally they fit up the bill. No, it's terrible. It's the insurance companies have to do shit like that. But no, bro, look, man, you out there, bro. That's why I met you. You got me out here doing stuff, like dropping off food.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's called for that Easter, right?
Yeah, you brought your girls out to Easter to deliver the meals to seniors.
No, man, it's just doing stuff for others, obviously in this sense, helping out your sister. It's unfortunate she got to fly all the way down there. But no, man, just getting back to just doing things. Man, just doing things as much as you can. Bro, getting to know you over these past few months, no, that's what you're about, bro. That really is what you're about. And I love that about you, bro. I really do.
No, I appreciate that. But it's, I don't know. I just wanted to do something, do something different on the podcast. It's always like negative, like political stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's funny. I was gonna tie that insurance company thing into Luigi because that was granted, it ended up being a better story for you. And I don't sympathize for what he's on. Like, you should be out there murdering people. But you got to understand where they're coming from. It's because the situation of too many people have been in situations like your sister where they couldn't get life-saving things, and insurance companies just say no. I mean, that's a bigger system and a bigger question for much longer and I don't know, better experts to talk about it than me. But it's I didn't want to go there because it's all a happy-go-lucky story.
No, it's fine. No,
but the Luigi thing, look, like I said, I don't agree with that. But you understand, look, this is why. It's shit like that.
Well, see, that's where the debate comes where I disagree. I'm glad you brought that up. Because you can say I don't condone what Luigi Mangione did.
No, me
and
neither.
Then there was
me
but,
neither.
And then it was but.
Because there's the but.
Yeah, but look at the Democrats right now. So I don't agree with it, but.
No.
So that gives people permission.
No.
So it's like saying, I don't agree with the rioters burning down buildings, but understand where they're coming from. So, but it's like giving them permission without doing it.
No,
so yeah, no matter what, he's a murderer. He should be in jail.
Yeah,
he wasn't denied any insurance or anything like that. The dude was fucking nuts.
Yeah, I know. It's mostly the rich liberal white kids in schools who feel the most offended by things and do the most radical stuff like that. At least that was the impression I got of him.
Yeah, but when you say that, when you say "but," it gives it relevance.
You think it does?
That's what I'm saying, because I see it all the time. It gives it relevance because it should be no, he was wrong. If you disagree with the insurance company, my sister, because she was denied,
why?
Because she was denied. Guess what? I went out and I contacted every news agency, and they covered it. He went out and didn't have anything and just shot somebody.
No, that's good that you said that because look, you were in a situation where look, the system didn't work for you. You didn't go out and turn to violence. You turned look, you put your foot to action. All right, well, fine. I'll start a fundraiser for my sister. Now look, probably the bigger thing is you shouldn't have to do that. It's glad that you did. I'm glad that you didn't go the route that you did. And I can say that. I know you didn't like the fact that I said, but that's fair.
I wanted to say it. It was good. It was good.
Well,
good
conversation. No, I get it. But on one level, it's just well, am I allowed to ask why? Why did he do that? Am I allowed to ask why? Is that still asking a but? Is that still giving him an excuse? Can I at least ask why then?
Yeah, ask why.
Okay.
But when you say but, it gives I just think the media says a but, we understand.
Yeah.
But no, but you shouldn't understand why somebody should kill somebody in cold blood. Okay. It should be well, he killed somebody. He was wrong.
Oh yeah, no, and that's look, it is, but there's still a why to it. People, I just I don't buy into people just crazy just because they're crazy. There's still things that even something like the Unabomber, there was something that happened to him when he was 1 year old when he was a kid. His older brother talked about it, the one who snitched on him, Ted Kaczynski. And something happened to him where he was isolated from his family and human touch for a solid, a few months, 3 months, 6. I forget the exact amount, so don't quote me on that. But I watch a lot of Rogan, so you're gonna get stories like this. Yeah. But after that, he was never the same. And then he ended up going to he was involved in Harvard, LSD program, a bunch of other stuff, and then he became a Unabomber. But that being said, even something like that, well, why did he go so crazy and stuff like that? Some people can point to something like that. Now, that doesn't mean I'm condoning it. That doesn't mean I'm not trying to throw that butt in there. But you know what I'm saying? Look, there's got to be a reason why. And like I said, I would much rather people do what you did. I said, look, fine. You know what? The insurance companies aren't. It is a rigged system. It is a system that needs to be switched. I'm not going to be able to fix that right now. But what I can do is I can help my sister out. You didn't go out there and try to shoot somebody, which I'm glad you didn't.
I'm glad I didn't.
I'm glad you didn't. And I wouldn't want anybody to do that. But the why, you have to understand the why. The why can't be ignored. Yeah, and that's the only thing that, by saying that, but I just don't want the why to be ignored because that is an issue. It is people don't just do crazy just for crazy's sake. At least I don't believe so.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I don't mean to make it sound like I was counseling, but you brought up a good point. You brought up a good point. Like when everyone says the but the way you look at it, so it's because people look at it that way and say, but I understand why he went. No, you shouldn't understand why he wants to just kill somebody because here's the why. The why is he had some serious mental health issues. Why is that? Why do you have the mental health issues? How was he raised? Like what happened to him? Yeah. That could be the cause. Maybe bad parenting. Maybe something that happened. But it's still not an excuse. But when you say, but he was mad about the insurance companies because they're greedy and all that, then that changes the narrative of the greedy insurance guy deserved to get murdered. But when you say, say, but because you want to know why, it's like, well, what will cause someone to do that? Is it there had to be something underlying there? Like, was it bad parent? Like I said, bad parent, whatever it may be. But when you hear, and I see it on the media all the time. I see it by the Democrats, see it by our senators, congressmen, all the. But you have to realize where he was coming from. Well, no, he was still a fucking nut that shot somebody in cold blood. That didn't even have that insurance. So it's just a way that I just look at the left and how they look at things, and they're kind of almost justifying it a little bit. When it's not justified, there's a problem with that dude. That's why he did it. But why did he do it? What caused him to do it? What happened in his life that made him do it? He still made the bad choice to do it. He deserves to be in jail. But the way I just see the media spin it, but you have to understand where he's coming from. And it just gives people out there like, the nuts out there. They hear me. They know what I'm talking about. And I think it just,
you're right. Look, I can definitely give somebody the excuse that it's all right.
I mean, it's way. It was just a good example. I didn't even know it was going to go that way.
Me neither. I thought I would. That honestly, that made me think of that. It made me think of that in that whole situation. And honestly, I didn't really go too many. I felt like that's just another divide and rule story. Unfortunately, people get shot and murdered every day. So it's just like why I feel like they'll choose which ones to focus on. Obviously, this one was obviously a little bit different. Like, was there anything else? Was there any was it like his mother or anything was denied? Was there any other type of? I still don't. To be honest with you, I genuinely don't know. Like, if there was any other details that maybe I missed along the way.
I don't know.
I got on the periphery. I didn't do a real big deep dive in it. It's unfortunate. I can understand why. Still shouldn't do it. Still don't make it right though.
Yeah, but the whole twisted part about that thing is it's not money raised, and people that got behind him are like, oh, he's so good looking, and you see like like people like Jimmy Kimmel and all of the comedians out there at the show. Jimmy Kimmel, he's a loser, and I hope he watches Jimmy Kimmel. You are, I can't stand it. But what they talk about, they're like, oh well, and they praise him. No, and then that's horrible for society.
Like screaming free Louisa. Yeah, that's not. I'm probably not gonna get behind that. That's not a good look. You shouldn't free somebody who did that.
Yeah, I mean,
look, I could put the tinfoil hat on. Maybe I don't even think it was Luigi. And he was sitting there in the same outfit, looking all weird in the McDonald's or wherever he was. I don't know. I think it was all set up. He's a patsy. All right, so that's
why is he smiling all the time? He's
I don't know exactly because he knows he's back. And bro, I don't know if you saw this. He came walking out in the same sweater and collared shirt combo that Lee Harvey Oswald had when he came out. I swear to you, bro, it was when it happened. It went viral on X that day.
I heard people say that, but
you
can look for
are they messing with us for real? Are they just showing us in plain sight? Are they just doing that for real? They're really going to have him? Because Lee Harvey Oswald famously said he was a patsy. He's like, oh, I'm a patsy, and then Jack Ruby shot him, of course. But before anything had happened with the trial or anything like that. But that being said, it was just, I thought that was just crazy. And another multiverse moment, or going down some.
And I believe Oswald was too. And with that, this is where we get in the next segment, which is going to come up. Know the difference. So let's take a quick break, and we're going to know the difference.
Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country, America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
All right, everybody, welcome back to segment 3. Segment 3 is Know the Difference. And that was a good segue into this segment, like Know the Difference. You brought up like Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, we can start off with that. Like, do I think there were other people involved? It wasn't bad. I think so.
Oh, yeah.
But
no.
I do. But are we ever going
I don't believe the official narrative, not one bit.
I don't either. I mean, but maybe it was. I know that I wasn't there. I know that I don't have the access to the files, and then everyone said, "Well, release the JFK files," just like the Epstein too after this and the other things. But it's like release files. Well, do you really think that the government would have files like in an archive saying, "Yeah, it was Lyndon B. Johnson, and it was this person was involved"?
Yeah. Well, one interesting thing that they have on there that is classified is like Lee Harvey Oswald's tax returns. Why is that? So that now let's say Lee Harvey Oswald's tax returns is something that's in those JFK files. Why would they not want those released? Well, let's say he was working for the CIA and he recorded that income from the federal government. That was, I don't know how the CIA, how you record it on your tax return. But so it's something like that where like Lee Harvey Oswald's tax return, I believe, like I said, I haven't been going down this rabbit hole in a while, but I believe that there's one of the things that's classified. And the theory goes is because they would show that he was working for the CIA or the FBI, one of our intelligence agencies, and thus we were in on murdering our own president, or at least our intelligence agencies were.
Yeah, do I kind of believe that conspiracy theory? Yeah, I kind of do, but I can't prove it.
No,
so I have to know that I know I don't have access to it, so I got to just believe what they tell me and just let it go. There's nothing I can do about it, so I got to know the difference. It's the same thing like with the Epstein list and all that. Everyone's up in arms about the Epstein list. And I said it on the Pulse last week when I was asked, Seth asked me, what do I do? I said, I don't care. And I said it because I wanted to spark a little bit of controversy. And see
sometimes you need that. You need that.
And it's not that I don't care. It's just, well, how much should I care? Because what can I do about it? Like, if I elected, Trump and his team to get in, and I'm trusting to get the Biden administration out because I didn't trust them. So I trusted them to run the country, right? They get in there and they're saying there is no list. I'm going to have to choose to believe that there isn't a list, because why wouldn't Biden drop it on them if either Trump was a part of it?
That's a good point, because if Trump was on the Epstein list and Biden and his FBI did have it, obviously what happened during Trump's first administration in the FBI trying to go after him with the whole Russiagate thing. Like if Biden was in office and had control of the Fed, the FBI, whatever, and they had that list with Trump on it, no doubt they would release it.
Of course.
No doubt. They would have looked, they made up the Steele dossier.
Yeah.
So if they actually had actual footage, then why wouldn't they release it? The whole Epstein thing, I mean, I don't like, it does matter to me on one level, but like you said, like, okay, they released, but like the thing is, it's like worst case scenario, let's say a third of Congress is involved with that. So like overnight, a third of Congress needs to get arrested. Like, I mean, like at least as far as the people, let's just say as the people, I would assume we would agree with that if they were implicated in child, whatever. I don't know the rules on where we're broadcasting this, but whatever Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, what she did, she did get convicted of trafficking to whom we'll never know. That's what this list is all about. So no, if they were doing, let's just say a third of Congress was doing that, the people overnight, like I believe we should want them arrested overnight. Or I know you got to go. Like that's completely unacceptable of all crimes. I think that's one of the most egregious, and we can all agree on that. And so that happens overnight. A third of Congress is now gone. Let's say half of the Supreme Court judge. Who knows? Who knows how? Then what? So then the day after that, now what do we do as a government? Which, getting to the auto pen, like you said earlier, it didn't really seem like it mattered. At least as far as the executive branch, branch clearly wasn't there for the past 4 years before Trump. So at least it wouldn't matter in that sense. I think the machine would still grind on if like a third of Congress went. But again, like I don't know if society be able to handle that. Like I don't know what's on that list. I mean, we may never know. Maybe actually, maybe the list never did exist. That's the only thing I don't like about that. Is just like, no, they said they had it. Trump even campaigned on it, et cetera, et cetera. But now all of a sudden, like, well, it's not there. I said, maybe it's a situation where, like I said, third kind of like I'm just making these numbers up. I have no idea. All right, I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, no,
you know
that's
what
good.
I mean?
Because I look at all different scenarios too. It's like,
Yeah,
all right, number one, all right, if there was, I don't see them actually having a list like this piece of paper.
Yeah,
that's
no.
actually out there. Because
Yeah.
whose hands would you trust in?
Yeah, and so this person had sex with this person who was underage. Like, you think they're gonna have a list of like that type of ledger? Like,
and they're keeping an FBI vault,
No.
so anybody get their hands on it. That's even if it was if Masao was involved, which we'll get into that.
Look, I do spreadsheets. I do a bunch of spreadsheets though. That wouldn't be a difficult spreadsheet to do.
I'm sure.
I'm an accountant by trade, so it's just like.
But I look at it as people. Are flawed, especially people that pedophiles are flawed a lot more than other people. But the thing is, if you would have like all these moving parts in this, like if you're, I'm just trying to think. It's hard. I don't even want to think of a mind of a pedophile, but I know it's a sick mind to begin with. But you're probably going to want to hide that. Like, there's not a lot of people you can trust to go around and be like, yeah, I'm a pedophile. Like, how do you bring people to an island, like, these big prominent people, and like, yeah, here's this 10-year-old, for you, and then trust that they're gonna be like, yeah, I'm into that. There's very little people that are, at least I hope, anyway. But how do you get a list of that many people without somebody blowing up like, yo, this guy's got some problems here, yo. Like, but somebody go in there and be like, oh, whoa, what are you putting in front of me?
Yeah.
Like, there had to be something like that. So that's why I can't see him trapping all these people, because anyone that wants to live that disgusting, evil lifestyle, you can't really share it with that many people, because somebody's going to go like, yo, this guy got some fucking issues. He's doing some wrong shit. I'm going to expose this guy.
Yeah.
There's got to be somebody, like that he I just find it hard to recruit people.
Yeah, you think, and it'd be hard to keep people quiet.
Yeah, I would think that's it. Now maybe
there's a good documentary, "Conspiracy of Silence," that talks about this, and you'd actually be rather surprised. You think that it would be, who would you think it would be a pedophile or like a Satanist or something like that, like a low life, someone in the lower rungs of society, stuff like that. Famous Australian Satanists. Again, I've been doing a lot of research, so I can grab things from a lot of places, but they said, like, no, Satanists that we had under, these were doctors, these were lawyers, these were teachers, these were trusted members of society. And you might not look, and we don't want to believe. Like, I don't want to believe that we live in a society where these things are happening right in our face. Where Mary Jo down at the grocery store, who might be a nice lady, but at night she might be doing some crazy stuff because she's involved in some type of coven, something to that effect. Who do satanic. I mean, there's all types of documentaries on satanic ritual abuse and things of that nature. So it's like, yeah, it is. We don't want to believe it is as prevalent as it may be, and we want to think that it's part of, like, the lower rungs of society, and we don't want to believe that is these upper elites or people that we may look up to lead us.
No, I think
or vote for them or whatever. Like, we don't want to believe that we've given our power away to someone who's involved in things like that. So it's sort of kind of this own cognitive dissonance, but in my experience and what I've, researched, over the many years that I have, no, it wouldn't shock me if all of them up there at that level are involved in something like that. And it's kind of a blackmail. And like I said, we can get some graphic stories that I've heard going down some rabbit holes. I don't want to ruin the channel.
I would say it doesn't have to be like the lower part. So I think the more prominent you are, the more famous you get, the more money you have, the more power you have, you can fall into something like that, because you already, when you already have everything that you've accomplished, then it's like, what else? And people can fall into that moral depravity. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at like Diddy. Even though, like, he's Diddy is become rich, famous. It's like you got everything that you want. And it's like, all right, well, let me dip my toe into this thing and try this.
But
I think it's more, it's easier to fall into that. But I could never see it, because I could never fall. I just that.
All right, so now, what if he wasn't able to achieve that level of wealth and status unless he did something? Oh yeah, you know what, Damon, you are up and coming, but you know what? You're only going to be. You're just going to be a millionaire. All right, at the rate you're going, but you want to be a billionaire? You like that B, don't it? That B sounds a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? In order to do that, no, that's a very exclusive club. All right, so that way you can get a situation, and then it becomes a blackmail thing. We're like, yeah, no, you're going to do that, okay? And now now we got you, okay? So now look, we're going to come through on our end of the bargain. We're going to make you a billionaire, okay, or whatever, however much money he had. But like, we're going to come through on, but you got to come through on our end of the bargain. You got to recruit more people. You got to get more people like that. You got to get more people videotaped, more people blackmailed, et cetera, et cetera. And he can do the same thing. Oh, you're a thousandaire. Oh, you just a rapper on the corner, something like that, or whatever. I can make you a millionaire. He doesn't have to make him the million, the big. Obviously, there's levels to the shit. But no, but you can see how that cycle can continue and how you can get people trapped in a world where that's just part of what goes on, and that's sick. Look, it's sick, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not saying it's not possible.
Yeah, no.
I mean, anything's possible.
But we don't want to believe it. I wish it wasn't true either. I wish you could unsee some of the things you could see on the internet. Which not everything's true on the internet. I'm well aware of that.
Yeah, but when I look at somebody like Tucker Carlson. No, like Tucker Carlson.
No, I like him.
Yeah, I always like Tucker, but now the way I see how he's handling things now, and we'll get into the whole Iran thing and Israel.
Yeah,
because this is going to be this is going to be part of it. But to stick with the Epstein thing with Tucker, like he came out and said there has to be this. It's got to be out there. We're told this. We're told that. And then when I hear Tucker speak and I hear him interview people, he never gives a hard solution. He just says this is the way it should be. He said everybody wants it. But it's like, okay, well, where he won't even call Trump out and say he's a liar. Because he's saying that the government is lying to us. Okay, the government's lying to us. Okay,
instead of saying Trump, he'll say government.
Who's the president? Trump. But he won't say it. He won't say Trump because I don't know why.
Well, he did go campaign for him, I guess. So maybe he's showing his loyalty that way.
But it's like the government.
I don't know.
Who's the government? Like, I saw him. He brings up stuff too. He's like, we can go into the Iran stuff too. So, and he said, oh, well, Iran didn't want to be bombed or anything. Of course, nobody wanted to be bombed. No. But he always
hope nobody wants to be bombed.
But he says, I want to live in a better country that could do this, and other countries should be okay. Well, how, Tucker? How? So I'm asking you, how could it be better? Like the whole situation with Israel, Iran, Israel, Palestine, like the whole holy war that's been going on for ever. So how do we know the difference? How do we get in between that and figure out who's right, who's wrong, or at one point say, listen, bad shit happened for so long, enough is enough. You got to come to an agreement. I mean, and just
well, some things we've got to at least be able to objectively, agree to. There's got to be some objective truths that we have to be able to agree upon. Because so listening to your one statement there about this being a holy war that's going on for thousands of years, not true. All right, not true. Yes, have there been wars in the name of religions over there? Yes, but this particular fight that we're talking about right now, well, as regarding Israel and Palestine, this really starts. You got to start the clock sort of kind of in Zionism. The end of the 19th century, the late 1800s. Obviously, Theodor Herzl is usually the godfather of Zionism. And I believe he called the first Zionist Congress in 1898. They wanted it in Munich, Germany, but it switched Switzerland. I want to say Basel, Switzerland, or Bern, so I forget. No, that's where it starts. Because look, prior to that, obviously the land of Palestine was owned by the Ottomans. The Ottoman Empire had control of that, and for the most part, they had actually good relations, better relations, especially towards the end of the 18th century, the 19th century. The Ottoman Empire had a much better relations with the Jewish people than the Christians at that time, especially in the Russian Empire, because the pogroms that were going on in Russia. And look, I sympathize with the Jewish people 100%. I know about the pogroms. Obviously, we can even go back to Ramesses and Moses. They've been persecuted people at people in diaspora. I forget the diaspora. Diaspora, I think is the name of it, or pronunciation. So they know, and they have, had to endure, so much suffering and things of that for their entire existence. So look, I 100% get that, and I empathize with that. But at that time, they were being, especially the late 1800s, prior to Theodor Herzl and all that, or among his time, that was being done by, especially in the Russian Empire, by Christians. Yes. They knew they could go and flee to the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire were taken. And for the most part, at least in the Ottoman Empire, for hundreds of years that they were around, Christians and Jews lived fine within the yes, they did have to pay a jizya tax. I mean, that's fine. Like every state is going to come up with a reason to tax somebody. But that being said, like no, like as far as like them maybe able to practice a religion, had the Holy Lands and et cetera like that, that was fine. There was nothing amongst that. And then like I said, going like with Zionism happens at that time, it's really bad for the Jews there in Christendom. All right, so then you got to fast forward a little bit to because then that's when the Zionist movement really starts. And that's where we got to pick up the conflicts. Like as far as saying, oh, it's just been a holy war, it's been going on for like. It's not been a holy war. The holy aspect of it, I feel like it's just thrown out there so that people can just dismiss it. Oh, it's just another holy war. Just those religions, they just always fight with each other. Shucks, let's go turn on something else, or worry about something else. And it's more a political thing. Look, people wanted their land, and like that's another thing. Like I don't have too much against Israeli people, especially people at that time. The Jewish people at that time, they weren't Israeli at the time because Israel didn't exist. They were still talking like it's early, but like pre-World War I. I watched a very long podcast, preface this and everything, but Dale Cooper, Fear and Loathing in the New Jerusalem, and he does that very balanced, and I highly recommend. It's like 26 hours or something to that effect. And I'm probably, I think, like 24 hours in, something like that. So I didn't get to finish it. But that being said, I've listened to him a lot. I know I'm doing a lot of talking. If you want to cut in at any time.
No, I was just letting you finish up with it.
Okay, look, it's going to be a while, so that's why I didn't want to.
Yeah, but no, but I mean, when I look at it like the history of it, I mean, what happened with the Jews? Even Christians persecuted them. When Jesus was killed, we know it was the Romans. The Romans did it, and they didn't believe in one God. They believed in many gods. They were.
Pontius Pilate didn't wipe his hands of it.
Yeah, but it was the Romans did it. But the Christians pushed it out there for a long time that it was the Jews.
The Jews, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone knows that it wasn't. So they were persecuted by Christians to begin with, and they figured that Christians were, Christians looked at it like, okay, well, Christ came and died on the cross, so he came. Jews were still waiting for Christ to come, so they figured they weren't necessary anymore. They're still waiting for somebody that already came. So that's basically, I think that's the way they viewed everything.
Even crazy things like, bro, if they had like a drought or something like that, it's like, oh, the Jews cast a spell.
Exactly.
Like that's what like the pilgrims was like. No, it's absolutely crazy, wild shit that the Jews had to endure, which is like, no, it's terrible. And you understand that's what
they've been persecuted for a very, very long time. And then even when it came to like the stigma about Jews and money and all that stuff and how they are, but it's like because they were the first people to start giving people loans with interest, and the whole reason, and the whole reason why is because it was against it was against the law. The Bible was against that. You couldn't loan people money with interest, but economically it worked. And that's how we have economics. So the Jews economically came out, we'll loan you money, you pay back with interest. And that's how we live today. Because that's why the Christians didn't do it, because it was really against the Bible.
Pope said no. For the longest time, the popes would always say no. At some point, when the Pope said it was okay.
And they were hated for that, for coming up with that. Yeah. So, and then in 1948, when the UN voted on, was it 48?
Yeah, well, it's the 1946 partition plan. 48 is when, it's like May 14th, 1948 is when Israel finally becomes its own independent state. But I mean, like leading up to that, I don't want to, get into the whole long history. Like I said, I did listen to all of it. Look, I can understand, especially from the Jewish perspective, that like, look, they've been persecuted this entire time. They have an opportunity. So they get the Balfour Declaration, which, look, from the Palestinian perspective, was terrible. And I'm going to defend my Palestinian brothers once we move on to what's more current day. But I mean, look, at the time, I can understand that. Like, look, and we are, a product of colonialism. Every people had their time. I'm sorry, unfortunately, that's human history. They had their time to colonize other people and take over. And look, if your army was better than theirs, that was just the way that's human. That's the way human history is going. All right. So unfortunately for the Arabs and everything, you didn't work out. That you lost. At the end of the day, you did. Now, leading into that, however, there's a lot of promises along the way that were broken. Okay, because Jews in like at the end of World War I were only about 12% of the population. Okay. Going into the 1930s, they were still only about 17% of the population. And now, look, they're gradually coming. That's the thing. Like, look, the Jews had to look. Like I said, they outsmarted. They were very smart with how they prepared for all the wars. And so, look, they knew that their war for independence was going to come. So they were stacking weapons. They had their gangs, which we can get into a little bit later and talk about terrorism, because even to this day, like, look, they considered the British at the time, the Jews considered the British at the time the occupying force. That was after World War I, they were the British mandate.
Yeah.
And no, the Stern Gang, the Erdogan, they promoted terrorism, right? Because, against an occupying force. They promoted, like, look, we will bomb them because they are the King David Hotel in Jerusalem in 1946. It's a perfect example of that. We're like, look, that was done by Jewish extremists. Look, they're extremists nonetheless. But that being said, like, no, they supported at that time to establish their own state of Israel. They supported terrorism against the occupying state. In that time, it was Britain. So we'll segue that back later. But going into the 30s, there's 4 years. That's another thing. Hitler at the time, he offered to get rid of his Jews, and the people in the Western countries, like here in America, England, France, they didn't want them. The Palestinians did take them. That's another thing that gets lost in history. When the Western countries didn't want the Jews, who were trying to get out of Europe at the time in the 30s, before the whole final solution came along, when Hitler did the awful Holocaust and all that. Prior to that, Palestine was taking them in. So you have Palestinians bringing the Jews in to the point where, like I said, the 1930s, they were around like 17%. There's a 4-year period when they went from 17% of the population to 33% of the population. That is a huge jump. Now, we just had, 10 million, at least on record, the past, 4 years or something like that. It would have to be like 75, the way he described it, like Hispanics make up 17% of the population in the United States. In order for that demographic shift to go from 17 to 33, we've had to import like 75 million in 4 years. Obviously, it's a bigger difference, the ratios, because Israel is much smaller and we have 350 million. But just to give you an example, could you imagine 75 million people just being dumped here in 4 years? But that's something that the Palestinians did have to endure. And they did. Like, there's a lot of things going on with Israel. You get to 1948, 1946 and all that, there's still a Palestinian majority. I don't know what it is. I think it's at that point, we'll say 60-40. But it's still a majority of the people in that land is Palestinian. Okay? But then that partition plan gave Jews a majority of the land. All right? I think we can all agree that that's just not fair. Like, if you own a majority of something, all right, and then I own a minority, and then at the stroke of a pen by the United Nations, which we can get into, which is not the United Nations that we think of today, but at the stroke of a pen, now you only own 40%, right? And went from, with the stroke of a pen, the initial partition plan, I believe, was like 59% would go to Jewish land and 41% would go to Arab. Then they had the 1948 war, and then Israel ends up taking they lost. 78%. Exactly. Look,
they were attacked.
And look, that gets into what I said before. Like, look, you go into war with somebody and you lose. This is sort of kind of what happens in war throughout all of human history. I apologize to the Palestinian brothers and all that, but look, you lost. All right, leading up to that, there was a lot of things that happened that gave them the advantage. Jews definitely better financed. They had better weaponry, better technology. They were better organized, et cetera, et cetera. All things that in most warfare, the most organized and prepared side is usually going to win. Yeah. So no, I completely agree with that.
But where I'm at, though, like, they still say that, and we're just throwing it all out there, because either way, it's all in the past anyway. It's got to get over at this point. But when they say that, the Temple Mount, and the way Arabs look at it, whatever land they conquer is there forever. But then they say that if it was their land and somebody else has it, then they should get it back. But there was an earthquake back in the day. It was I forget what it was, where they found all these underground caves, and they could say they seen it was occupied by Jews first before.
Well, yeah.
So if you want to claim land that way, okay, fine. You want to keep doing it that, but you occupy your territory by winning the war or whatever. So like you said, but at this point, you can go back and forth on all different kinds of things, like what started it, where who did what this time, what then there. But it comes a point where it's like, when are you gonna stop? When are you gonna give up? Or when do you just say, you know what? It's not gonna stop. I'm gonna do whatever it is to protect me. And this brings it back to the bombing Iran with they were enriching uranium. Now, why would they enrich it past the point where they need it? When they are the most oil-rich country in the world, they don't really need nuclear power. But they said they're enriching it for power. But then they took it way past the uranium enrichment. Now,
up to 60, I believe, is what they're going to do. You don't need 60 in order for nuclear power. I believe it was
Yeah,
up. It was up to 60%. That
You
had
only need like
something.
20% or something like that for nuclear power, and they took it up to 60.
Yeah,
So that means
no.
at any moment they had all the tools to make a nuclear bomb. So that right there, it's like, okay, that they're not making one. Do you know that that the leader said, "Oh, make one right now"? No, we don't know, but they had every single tool to make one, and if they got one, they would probably try to use it. I mean, I don't
believe that.
Well, I mean, if there's a chance that they would, like, why are they doing it? So if you're Israel and you're over here, size of the state of New Jersey, and then you're surrounded by enemies, and all you have is the sea right behind you, I'd be like, hey, you know what?
Well,
I'm not letting these people have a nuke because why are you going to have it? And even the United States too, if they want it intercontinental.
I'm not buying it.
I'm just
like,
saying,
look, you say they're surrounded by all their enemies. All right, so why? Why are they? And they're really not. They have a treaty with Egypt. They have a treaty with Jordan. They just overthrew the Assad in Syria with our guys ISIS that we've been arming and funding since Obama. And they were sitting up in the Idlib province, and they just rolled in and kicked Assad out of. That was in December, wasn't it? Or November. I know Biden was still in the transition, but no. So they got rid of the Shiite Assad or Alawite Assad. Now they have the Sunni Islamic State. ISIS was right back in power. The Jelani guy that would now put a suit on and we're acting like he's okay. So they overthrew the guy that they did. So they're friends with Egypt. They're friends with Jordan. The guy they weren't friends with in Syria is now gone, and the people that they just installed is in there. Lebanon, I guess they're still bombing the southern part of Lebanon. All right, so the whole idea of them being surrounded by their enemies, I'm not buying that. All right, and the whole idea of why, if they are, like they said they don't, why is because of their treatment of Palestinians. And that gets into the reason why I said that the whole raw deal thing is like, look, if you own 60% of something, somebody on the other side of the world can't just say like, no, all of a sudden now I own 60, but now they're going to give it to me and they're just going to take it from you. And that's what happened with that UN partition plan, because all the countries, when they voted, again, it's not like the United Nations that we think of today, where it's like 200 plus countries. There's 53 or 56 countries, and I think it's 56. But I know 33 of them voted for, 13 voted against. All 13 that voted against were everybody in the region, right? Everyone, obviously, all of Western Europe, I think the closest country to was Russia. That closest country to Palestine, the land of Palestine, whatever, that became the state of Israel, was Russia. Okay. All the others. So imagine, okay, if we're having a dispute about this company, and not the closest people to us are going to settle this dispute, but somebody on the other side of the world is going to settle our dispute and going to give me more, even though you own 60.
Well,
but just from that standpoint. Now, look, we can get from that standpoint. Do you understand how that's unfair? Can we at least?
But who was it? I don't know all the history, but whoever was in charge and one of that.
What do you mean?
I don't know his name. Came out and said there's no such thing as Palestine. There's no such thing as a Palestinian because
Who said that?
Yeah, it was. I don't know, but he was. I don't want to get it wrong, but
That's fine. I'm not.
But he came out and he said there are no Palestinians. There's no.
Well, then there's no such thing as an American. I'm not American. I'm a human being.
Yeah, but
I'm a human being.
But Palestine and Palestinians was never a people. They're Arab descent, mostly either from a mixture of Egypt, Jordan, whatever it might be.
Herodotus, the ancient Greek,
Greek. That's what it is. Yeah,
the ancient Greek historian Herodotus did label that part Palestine. So at least going back to the 5th century BC, I believe. I saw something about Egypt called it because Philistines is where they're allegedly the sea peoples. This goes back to the end of the Bronze Age. I do love me some history shit too. But the end of the end of the Bronze Age, the sea peoples went out and conquered most of the Bronze Age civilizations, and allegedly the Philistines were the ones who landed in Gaza and in Egypt. Obviously, it's in hieroglyph, but like it's spelled out Palestine. Basically, spelled out Palestine or Philistine. Yes, it was the land of Judea during Roman times. Yes, it was called that. They did change it to Syria, Palestina after the final Judea revolt. So look, it has been called Palestine. It has been called Judea. I'm not that argument doesn't impress me. Actually, technically, they're not really people. Look, they were in the land of Palestine or whatever you want to call that area. Those were the people. Those were the Arabic people who lived there at that time.
Maybe that's why the vote went that way.
What do you mean?
The vote is okay. Well, that maybe was sway to vote.
Well, because was a European invasion, so of course the Europeans would then vote for the Europeans. Because there's the Israelis that were coming, so of course they would vote that way. I could throw that same argument too.
Yeah, I know.
My whole thing is, who would know that area better? The Europeans or the Arabs who live there?
I would say the Arabs live there. Or the
So
Jews
if
live there.
they're more in tune with what's the actual state of what's on the ground and what's feasible and what's going to be right for the people on the ground, they know about, because they're actually from that area, and all the surrounding countries from that area all said, no, this is not a good idea to have a Jewish state. Well, wouldn't you trust them more than you would trust somebody? Because, some of the people in 33 countries were like South American countries. All right.
I got you. But
So it's like, what do they know about Palestine? Only in Israel. The only thing that they get from us.
At that point, I will give you, it's a good point. And we can go down this rabbit hole for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Because we're getting close. We're actually over time a little bit too. But,
I'm sorry, brother.
No, it's fine. No, it's a good conversation. But I'm sure we're going to have more of it. But where I draw the line, like it's like October 7th, when you go and you just rape, murder, kill babies, and put it on TV and talk about it and parade up and down the streets with dead women in the back of your truck. It's like, all right, I don't care how oppressed you were, what happened to you, that was just wrong. And that right then and there just made my decision. Like, okay, fine.
And that's exactly what they wanted. It's the same way that, facts don't care about your feelings. They're tugging at your emotional string. By telling you all that, about all the horrible things that happened on that day, which some of which has been disputed. The whole rape campaign, there has been disputes amongst the Israeli papers, not New Jersey or American papers, the Haaretz, Times of Israel, Jerusalem Post, things of that nature. Okay, so I don't know. I wasn't there. I was horrific, 100%. Flying in there and doing all that killing shit, 100%. The extent of it though, and the stories, I don't know if they about someone having a baby cut out of her stomach. Don't buy that for a second. I don't buy that for that. That to me is no different than the propaganda that was spilled when in the first Gulf War in Kuwait and Iraq, when they said that the Iraqi soldiers were going into Kuwaiti hospitals and throwing the babies out of the incubators. That was the story that they told back then to justify our invasion. So to me, look, was there killing on that day? Was it horrific? Do I condemn all that shit? 100%. I condemn October 7th. It was fucking terrible. I 100%. But when they get into those extreme stories of how terrible it was, to me, that's now I get the smell of propaganda, and it reminds me, like I said, of that when I just saw they're throwing babies out of incubators. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't get so upset that they're throwing babies out of incubators? Oh my God, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? But they do that. The propagandists, unfortunately, they feed us that information to get that reaction.
I hear you there. So
that's why
it takes it back to I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I don't know. But it comes down to your choice. What you choose to.
Man, we didn't really get into that. We just started talking too much.
Yeah, I know.
God, what I really want to get to was like the bubble, like where people get their information from. We are all trapped in our own bubbles, me included. We're like, look, whether you love your conservative news, you can find yourself trapped in that conservative bubble. Yeah. Where that's all you get. You get in your own echo chamber, and that's why. We got to do the best we can to get outside of our own comfort zones and listen to as many different perspectives on these topics as we can.
And that was the whole point of this conversation.
I know. And we didn't even, we summed it all up here at the end. So, you know what I mean? We got there. But
it's just to have the conversation to figure things out. Because, maybe I can learn something from him. Maybe he can learn something from me. That's the whole point of it. And then guess what? We're still friends in the end. So, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. To have that conversation, have that dialogue. And that's just the whole left versus right thing. And I said it last week on the podcast that I ran into my neighbor, my friend's new neighbor. And I was talking about the podcast, talking about for something, and I told him I ran for office, and he goes, "Oh, Republican." As soon as I said Republican, he's like, "Oh!" His head just exploded.
It can't be like that.
And he just cut off all conversation. I didn't even say anything. All he heard was Republican, and that was it. He was done. So that was the point of this conversation, and we're going to have many more of them. But with that, we're going to take a break, and we're going to go into the Patriots loser award.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
All right, so now we're going to take it to our Patriot of the Week and Loser of the Week award. So let's start off with our Patriot of the Week. Is Steve DiOrio. And I give this one to Steve DiOrio. He is the host of the Steve DiOrio Show on 92.1. So he works with me at the radio station as well. And he's a very good friend. He's the one that introduced me into Pennies in Action, the cancer treatment that my sister is going through right now, and helped fundraise, helped get her into it. I mean, he's just a great guy. I mean, he even did his show on Saturday. He did it remotely from Wildwood and had my sister and I on, and he attended the fundraiser as well, and he donated, and he set a lot of things up. So thank you, Steve. You're a true patriot. He doesn't just do that. He's the one that that sets it up with you, Nate, you and I, delivering the meals to the seniors and all that stuff.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so he's the one that's behind all that. So Steve, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you, Steve. Give me that opportunity, man. Thank you.
Yeah, true patriot, Steve. So thank you very much. And Pete, maybe next week I'll give it to you, or maybe the week after.
You gotta earn it. No, you gotta earn it. No, we don't give out nothing for free here. We earn that award.
So, all right, now let's move on to the Loser of the Week award.
You earn that too.
Yeah.
You earn this one too.
Here we go. Loser of the Week award. I gotta play that.
Losers! Losers!
Love that from South Park with the losers.
Ah,
But
shut
yes,
up!
James Gunn's latest Superman movie just came out. I'm giving it the Loser of the Week award. And the reason why, I mean, was it entertaining to watch?
I've seen it.
Yeah, it was a little too much action in there, and it didn't really have that much of a plot. But still, the special effects were pretty cool. You know, it was entertaining. You watch it, was okay. It was entertaining. But
I gotta be honest, I didn't even know it was coming. I didn't even know there was one coming out. I might live under a rock, but I felt like I didn't.
They
know.
advertised the hell out of that.
They
thing.
did. But I didn't. I really didn't. I was shocked.
Must have been that 26-hour documentary you were watching.
Yeah, spending too much hours, too much time on that. I really was.
But they politicized it.
Though,
and James Gunn, the director, he came out before the drop the movie, and he just, because everything's going on with illegal immigration and deporting people, he's like, Superman was an immigrant, and look, he saved people. So he had to put it that way, like immigrants are saving this country. Well, Superman. Okay, you want to call him an immigrant now? He wasn't an alien.
Right, he was 100% an alien.
Yeah,
he was an alien immigrant. 100%. He fits the bill. However, I don't know too many Jose's that's over here flying around and doing what Superman can do. If he can, he can come. Those are the ones I'll take. I'll take that immigrant ASAP. Just
but
like he got.
But he adapted to the American way. You know.
Oh yeah. He assimilated.
Yeah,
that's
true justice
100%.
in the American way. They didn't mention that in that movie at all. You know, they not once.
He is a Kansas. Was he still a Kansas boy?
Yeah,
he was still a Kansas boy. All right, at least they didn't change that.
But he adapted to the culture, became an American. That was the whole thing. And then all throughout the plot, they had things in there where, the stuff that we just talked about, Israel and Palestine. It just seemed like that way. It looked like Putin and Ukraine
metaphors for
different wars that were going on at the time, and it was just it included that. And in the end, like Lex Luthor. This very last line when he lost, he was screamed because Lex Luthor was so jealous of Superman because he was an alien. He didn't see him as a person. He shouldn't be here because it was his country, his land. And looked at Superman as an illegal. And that's basically what the plot was. That's why I hate him so much. And then there's the very last line. That spoiler alert, guys. Sorry, I'm going to give it away anyway.
Superman wins.
Spoiler
alert.
But Lex Luthor says he says my government gave me permission to kill you. Like that was like he was so frustrated that he lost. He said, "My government gave me permission to kill you," and it was just so scripted towards political stuff. And James Gunn alluded to that before the movie came out too. So I still watch it. My son wanted to see it, but that's why I get the loser of the week, because keep the politics out of it. Everyone wants to go to a movie and just enjoy it, unless it's like a documentary, like an informational movie.
It's part of our culture now. Like, no, that's
like when you go to Disney World, no one wants political shit in that. You just want to go there for a vacation.
No,
like
Mickey.
That's what turned me off of football, man. I had season tickets for so long, and now it changed now. But as soon as I got political, I gave up my season tickets, and I'm like, I'm not going anymore. And now they're not so much anymore, which is good.
Yeah, well, because the fans spoke up. They spoke with they marched with their dollars. So listen to that. Like, at the end of the day, to listen to dollars and cents.
Yeah,
make some money. Money make the world go around.
Well, you're right about that. Well, speaking
no, it doesn't. No, it's just we're slaves to the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on that usury. We were talking about that earlier. Go back to usury.
Yeah.
And that that's what keeps us all enslaved. But that's for another episode.
Well, speaking of money, though, there's somebody that we're trying to raise money for. We're going to bring up the GoFundMe for Seth Eisenberg. That's one of our podcasters from the Conservative Corner. His name's Jonah Eisenberg, but goes by Seth. Seth is a really good guy. And, I'm sure you heard me say it before, and all the other podcasters put this out there. And Seth has went through multiple surgeries on his foot. And he's kind enough to let us make fun of him about it, because when he shows his foot, it was horrific. And you'll see his podcast where he actually put the pictures out there. I was like, oh my God. But no, it's been tough for him. The hospital bills are piling up big time. And, he's a regular guy. He's back to work, but he's like hobbling around here and there. And it's just everything that he went through, it just was a lot. And he's finally just got back to podcasting again. We're very happy to have him back. But I know he owes a lot of money to the hospitals, and he can use all the help he gets. So if you can have a little bit of extra you have in your heart to donate to Seth, there's a GoFundMe right up there. Whether it's $1, $5, $20, $100, whatever it will be. But I'm just letting you know he's a good guy and he's worth it. I did it for my sister, and a lot of her friends stepped in too. So it wasn't me. Her friends really stepped up and jumped in, and family did too. But it's just Seth needs it as well, and it won't be wasted. It'll go towards a great cause. So with that, Nate, my man, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you
for coming on.
Glad to be here, man.
Yeah, it won't be the last time. But we got some other stuff coming on, and I'm going to do. My wife and I are talking about what we're going to do. We're going to jump into podcasts here and there.
I did see that. I saw the end of that. We guys going to be doing that.
That'll be a fun one. Well, we're just going to
talk relationships.
Just be us. Be married. Because listen, I'm on the podcast, I'm on a radio show, and I throw my little things that are here and there.
She got to get her kick. She got to get her lick back.
Yeah,
she got to get her lick back.
When's it going to be my turn?
I'm with you, man. Let's go.
She's like, you're out there. You got to. I said, well, come on.
I'll be your guest. I'll show up on the dual cup.
But all right, everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. And after this, you're going to see where to get all of our podcasts and the times and everything else. Thanks again. See you on Thursday on the radio show, and then Friday night radio show will air it again. But thank you. Have a good one.
big voice, it's all